Welcome to the BRB Gamer podcast. You're here with me, Thor.
I'm Choosh.
I'm StubbornPixel.
And we're here talking about being parents and all the things that we may want to do involving gaming. So how are you guys doing? What didn't you get to play this week?
I spent some more time on Barbie Explorer. I feel like that game has kind of run its course for me. You guys ever feel that way where you're playing a game and you're like, I probably should finish this, but then you totally just drop it?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm a serial game not finisher. I get like right up to the final fight. I've got the big Goron sword or whatever, and then I'm just like, nah, something else.
Exactly. It's like channel surfing, but with your ROMs.
Yeah.
A game that I want to play, but I haven't been playing is Zelda Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to play those games, and now that they're the game of the month on our Retroid Handhelds server, it seems like the perfect opportunity. But yet, I keep starting it, and then I just fall asleep.
Heresy. Wow.
I don't stay
Mm-hmm.
Was the first rebooted Tomb Raider.
Oh, nice. That was a fantastic game.
I really enjoyed it.
Those three games were worth 100%ing for me personally. I deeply enjoyed them all.
I beat the first one.
Oh, did you? You took the time?
I took the time. That was back before I had kids. This was 2013.
Well, that explains it.
Man, those were the days. You come home from work, you have time to do stuff. Mid-20s, you're not really worn down by life quite yet. So you're cheery. You're like, I'll get to play some new game that came out. Oh, Lara Croft. Loved this game when I was a kid. All right, I'm going to play.
Then you hit that weekend, and then you could just play Final Fantasy or whatever the game of the day is until your eyes bleed. Sitting there playing from like 4 p.m. when you get home. Then suddenly it's 6 a.m. You see the sun coming up and you're just like, all right. Then you try to fix your sleep schedule by staying awake.
When I was younger, I was always really engaged by release schedules, like always checking gaming news, always looking at what was coming up the next month.
Yeah.
Now, release schedules terrify me because when there is a conflict of two games that I want to play in a single month, I just need to write one of those off.
I honestly get paralyzed by that and just end up not buying either one of them. I'm just like, I just tell myself, I'll just wait for the damn holiday sale. When the game of the year pack is out for it or whatever.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's the way to go, man. Speaking of Tomb Raider again, I was older when the second one came out, and I fully intended to beat that one. But, halfway through, channel surf to another game. And probably by the PS6, I'll get around to playing like the XXX 8K remake.
Keep in mind, too, when, in our day, we had gaming magazines in every direction. We didn't have the internet access, and so we could actually get hyped about it. I remember seeing Final Fantasy VIII announced and just being like, oh, Jesus, yes, because they had the big 2-page spread and interviews with the developers and all that kind of stuff.
Not to mention all the demo CDs and
I was going to say
the prevalence of actual gameplay demos that were available.
Right.
Yeah, the Squaresoft demo CDs were just spectacular.
They really were 3 or 4 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
I was always really late for consoles when I was growing up. I was always, a gen or two behind. When my friends had a Genesis, I had a Atari 2600. So it took me a while to get to parity with console gaming.
I was nostalgic even from youth.
But I was always building my own PCs. So those PC Gamer, PC Informer, those sort of demo CDs were kind of all I could go for.
Right.
I didn't have the internet. I didn't have the money to pay $60 for a new game. So I think I finished the first level of Abe's Exodus on PC about 100 times before I actually got to play that game.
Those were good games. And they're coming out with a new one in the series.
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah.
That's a great series. And you talk about demo discs, and like I lived for that. When you're a kid, you don't have money exactly, so you just replay those demo discs. And if you can get like the PlayStation sampler,
oh yeah,
that was so brilliant. You're playing these one-offs like Disruptor and Crash Bandicoot and all these little games. And I don't think I ever bought Crash Bandicoot actually when I was younger. I just replayed the first level over and over again. And just
Cool Borders.
Exactly.
Cool Borders. I remember that demo.
Cool Borders was that game for me.
Web systems.
The game that I never bought but played hours and hours of.
Yeah, that was a great game. And actually, that's one I did pick up later on. That demo disc experience, I will take to the grave as just bliss.
If you think about it nowadays, that first level is about all we have time for.
Exactly. I would love to get a demo disc of like all the current games that are coming out and just play that and then call it good.
Oh, that would be ridiculous.
That's why I go back to arcade-based games much more than I go back to things like RPGs, because I know that I can bang out 3 or 4 levels and have an enjoyable experience. And it doesn't matter that the game is 3, 4, 8 hours, because I'm never going to get 3, 4, 8 hours to sit down and just play a game.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm much more excited about re-experiencing the Sega back catalogue or the SNK back catalogue than I am for a lot of the stuff on the Super Nintendo. Not because I didn't love it when I was a kid, just because I have the time to experience those things in bite-sized chunks. Yeah.
My wife has been playing FF7 Remake for 6 months because she gets about an hour or 2 every 2 weeks to sit down and play through it.
Yeah.
And she's at the motorcycle scene at the very end. And she's like, is this this the end of the game? I'm like, no, you have more.
There's no 100%ing this day.
No.
For me, it's
when I see someone that has a platinum trophy on something, I'm just like, oh, you don't have children.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, something that comes up a lot on the Retroid Handhelds Discord is people talking about retro achievements, and God love them. You know, do whatever you want. I don't have time to play the game and finish the game, let alone try to achieve all of these fun little bite-sized things.
Well, I'm definitely in bite-sized mode myself with gaming as of late. Like I would love to sit down and play Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons and take the time to transfer all my items over and all that kind of stuff. I know it's not going to happen though.
It's never going to happen.
No.
And that's why I like retro achievements, but I'm not playing to try to get 100% or anything, just getting to the end credits. And and it says like, hey, you've unlocked 40% of the achievements, because that kind of slowly goes up and up, and you can compare it and share it with other people, and just their whole community is really, I don't know, it's just cool. Like it's just fun. I will never get up that ladder. I'm like 32,000th place right now on their list. I look at the guy number 1 and I'm like, wow, you must just strap a VR console to your face, and your mom is bringing you pizza pockets,
pea jars, pizza rolls, and
I mean, that's important. That's part of the fun.
That is. I mean, and they're dedicated. Like they must be like, I will be number 1. They are the Karate Kid.
Most of my gameplay nowadays is on Steam, and I'm lucky if I get to 10%, 20% of the achievements unlocked by the time I finish a game. I sometimes I sit there and look at the numbers that people pull in on individual games, not even like global gaming hours per week, and I think how the hell does anyone still have that amount of time to do anything in a year, let alone 4,000 hours on a single game?
I have a buddy that's put in 900 hours on Monster Hunter World. 900 hours. What? Not even to talk about Dark Souls. That's another one. Holy crap, people. That's so much time.
I've got 200 hours logged on Skyrim on Steam, but 190 of those hours are just me installing mods and then uninstalling mods. So.
Right.
Those some of those mods are great though. I have like the Randy Savage mod where
oh yeah,
step into a Slim Jim, brother, hey brother, the dragons.
Yeah, if you guys looked at my Steam library, all the games that I've bought and then subsequently not played, you'd be appalled.
Well, I mean, those sales,
it's oh my god, right?
They get you every year. You're like, well, I'll put this in my bucket, list of games to play, my backlog, and I'll get to it. Like probably, maybe.
That's how you end up with like 800 plus games in your backlog, like I have right now.
That's it. I mean, I didn't buy anything on the last sale because I knew. I mean, this year we've been in lockdown now in Victoria for something like almost 200 days of the year so far.
Yeah.
And if I haven't been able to play more games now than I've ever played in my entire life, I'm never going to play games again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, now's the time. Like, if you have the time, make use of it. Like,
it's actually been good. My partner, she didn't play a lot of games growing up, so she doesn't have the nostalgia for video games that I do. But she's been playing a huge amount of games. But watching her experience things for the first time has been really interesting, because there's a lot of stuff in gaming that you take for granted if you've grown up with the evolution of video games. Things that are part of the zeitgeist, like red barrels being explosives in any video game. That's something that you don't need to be told intuitively. You just pick up because you've watched the evolution of games.
Right.
But for people who jump into it now, that entire backlog history of things that we take for granted doesn't exist. It was things like in an RPG with a fantasy setting, I forgive a lot of really shitty writing because I've seen a lot of really shitty writing in fantasy RPGs. So you just move on. You just continue playing. Right. But for her, she looks at it and she goes, this is really shit.
She's right. I mean, correct.
Yeah, you're right. We just move on to another game. Whereas I would have put in a little more effort to try to get past that and see if there was some meat to it.
Right, because you can overlook the writing because you know that, okay, maybe there's a good battle system or maybe there's a really good payoff, towards the end of the game in like the item
collection we had.
Right. We're so conditioned with role-playing games these days. You're right, we completely overlook just shitty dialogue and shitty writing. And I really hope the game developers haven't taken that and been like, we'll just, story, whatever.
Well, it's been good in some ways. Things like how cognizant I am of problematic gender roles in video games has definitely gotten better, given that I now have a different perspective from someone who didn't have to see how problematic things were in the 80s and 90s, So
I think on the other hand, though, that a lot of it has, because video games, especially in the modern day, are designed more and more toward a wider age audience, right?
Sure.
That I kind of miss out on. I feel like I'm kind of missing out on, some of those old ultra-violence games that would just let you check out and slay demons,
I mean, those still exist, and they're just under the umbrella of mature narrative games. I mean, if you want ultra violence, just play The Last of Us. Like, everyone forgets that like they talk about it being like this wonderful story and push the envelope narrative. But those games are the most violent games I've ever played in my life, I feel like, because they're so realistic and so visceral.
It's like The Walking Dead. It's that level of violence that is almost cathartic to watch.
And then you have the modern Tomb Raider games. Remember that when you get the pick and put it in somebody's neck? Holy shit. I mean, Lara Croft always had guns before, but damn, woman.
Yeah.
There was that section in that first Tomb Raider game where she's falling down the cliff for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was just like so overwhelmingly visceral looking. And I remember thinking, this is proper fucked. I feel bad for playing this.
And then she gets impaled.
She does. She gets impaled when she falls in the water and falls on the spikes. I watched Conan actually play that, and that's what made me go buy the game. I was like, I got to go play this ultra-violent, crazy game. And I found a lot of charm in that game and ultra-violence. And I had so much anxiety over not getting Lara killed every step of the way.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Like that kind of arcadey, neo-realism, ultra-violence stuff doesn't exist anymore.
It's just like, hey, let's just go blow a bunch of stuff up, I feel like that kind of stuff is shifted more toward like the 2.5D side scrolly kind of games where they up-res older games.
Twin stick isometric stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for new games coming out, that's really been pushed to the indie developers.
Yeah.
The AAA studios, and it's silly, but they know they have to like make this engrossing storyline be involved when they really don't have to do that. Like, we didn't do that back in NES days. Like, just focus on awesome gameplay.
Unless I'm playing like something with serious RPG elements, I don't expect some game-changing story element,
Right.
I mean, if I'm going to spend 45 hours leveling up this character's hacking skills, it'd be nice for you to put a nice story in there. You have Dragon Quest, which is, that's kind of designed to be something that you play for an hour or two before you go to bed. Yeah. It's simple. It's got, beautiful but semi-repetitive music. The battle system isn't complicated, Yeah. I don't think Dragon Quest games were designed to be like you sit down and play it straight for 5 days and get it done.
No, that's what Star Ocean's made for.
Yeah, that's Star Ocean. That's right.
I was incredibly critical of the Outer Worlds, for instance, because it was kind of surface level and it was quite short in comparison to the other games that you couldn't help comparing it against.
Right.
That being said, if it had been twice as long, I wouldn't have finished it.
That's true.
My criticism of games is still mired in my history in games. It's not reflective of my reality in games. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. Like, there are definitely people who can see a 50-hour game and go, oh yeah, this is great, I'm going to play that. And they do. And they finish it. And then they move on to the next 50-hour game. Whereas me, if it's over 30, there is probably a 10% chance I'll ever finish that game.
Yeah. Unless it's really, really like just hitting it for me on so many levels, I am just not going to finish that game. In fact, if I go into it knowing it's 50 hours, I'm not even going to try to start it. I bought Red Dead Redemption 2. I've tried starting it. I can tell it's a really amazing game, but it's overwhelming, and I just put it down.
Yeah.
So I play games like King Oddball. Have you guys ever played that?
No.
It's like a simple arcade game where you're a swinging head that goes back and forth, and you just hit the X button, and then it releases. It's a physics-based game, and you try to knock these tanks.
Yeah.
Try to knock these tanks off these platforms. It's like Angry Birds or something. Very just simple. And that's the game I load up every time I turn on my PlayStation 4.
Tricky Towers was that for me on the PS4.
Ooh.
And the only games I finished were Journey, which I thankfully got to play with one person who I played through the entire game with, which was wonderful. An absolutely incredible experience. I also finished The Last Guardian.
Ooh.
Derisive game, but I thought it was a beautiful narrative all the way through. So
that is a beautiful game.
I play a lot of Picross games.
Yeah, for sure.
They're called nonograms, right? Where you make a picture from numbers and all that kind of stuff. But I can handle the 6 minutes or 7 minutes that takes me to solve a 30 by 30 puzzle, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, Death Stranding has been in my PS4 for almost a year now, and I haven't even started it.
But I mean, if you start that game and you walk for 6 minutes and save, and then you come back the next day and walk for 6 minutes and save.
Well, and I think that's why a lot of games have put so much content in it. It really hits that pleasure button in our brain to get an achievement for, collecting 5 pieces of paper, then 10 pieces of paper, then 20 pieces of paper, then, my God, I got a gold trophy for getting 100 pieces of paper.
That's the same reason why I've never engaged with online games.
Yeah, it's and there's so many games like that where it's like that carrot on the stick that just keeps going. Like, that's why I can't play WoW, because I know what it is. Like, this is a formula. Diablo has turned into that too.
Yeah.
And so I go out of my way to play any game that doesn't have that formula.
With Ghost of Tsushima, it was like I felt like a fuse pop in my brain, because they actually released a complete game, something that I hadn't experienced in quite some time. The day one release was a complete game. Now they've added a few other features like co-op and stuff like that, which is going to be a lot of fun. But I started playing it, and I got maybe 10 hours into it over a week. And I was just like, oh, shit. People don't release complete games anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not paying launch day prices for, Destiny games or anything like that anymore. That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm never doing that again.
I think that's my big problem with early access and the push for early access. I really love the idea of it. This ability for indie developers to kind of get crowdfunding investment for an idea that they have that might not have come to fruition otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been good in some regards, in that we're getting a wider breadth of games from different perspectives, and also very different types of games and settings. Sci-fi is coming back in a big way when that has been dead for quite a few years. High fantasy, narrative choice-based games are there for the taking. That being said, we're now paying for the demo discs.
Yeah.
We're paying full price for these demos. We're in this really awkward position where we are reinforcing that kind of behavior is okay, and it's both negative to the people who are trying to utilize it for the good, but it's negative for the people who just don't know how to run a game studio, especially when something is popular and getting constant attention. You look at something like No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
I mean, that game is a really good example of this kind of thing where they've added a huge amount into that game.
Yes, they have.
Oh, the expansions that they put in have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
That they're not charging for them.
But the UI still looks like shit. And this goes back to my previous point about playing games through the history of games evolution. If someone comes into No Man's Sky having never played, a resource management sim, they will be lost in this multitude of complex menu systems that are not intuitive at all.
Maybe instead of just, splitting up games by maturity rating or something like that, they should also put like an ease of entry rating on it as well.
Yeah.
That the thought of my kid being 10 years old and loading up Red Dead Redemption or something like that for the first time, like I would expect them to be overwhelmed and not to know what the hell to do, even if they had a history of gaming.
But they're not going to do that, because if they add that kind of system in, like that's immediate turnoff for most consumers.
Or it's an immediate turn on for the elitists.
Oh yeah, I mean,
there is definitely a subset.
There is a subset. I have an elitist friend who just loves No Man's Sky. Like he's like, please play No Man's Sky with me. So I go in, we do multiplayer, and he's like, isn't this amazing? He's like, all right, here's the backstory for our characters, and he tells me like this, he's like dungeon mastering like D&D with No Man's Sky, which is great because games like that, like Minecraft and No Man's Sky, like are built for you to make your own stories. But I'm like, I am so overwhelmed and lost what the fuck I'm doing. I just want to turn off the computer and go drink lemonade, honestly, dude.
A Mike's Hard,
A Mike's Hard lemonade.
I wish a lot of modern multiplayer games would take some notes from things from the past with the bite-sized stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My goodness. We'd at LAN parties and stuff, if there were just a few of us, we'd occasionally try to go through Serious Sam in a night or something like that. But if we were going to have a real LAN party where like we had a prize or something like that, all we played were bite-sized multiplayer games.
Perfect.
Quake 3 Arena 1.5.
Warcraft 3 with all of the mod maps.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was constant new content.
Mm-hmm.
Who's you want to kill?
I remember the RTS that kind of killed the RTS play for us for a while was Age of Empires 3. Not because it was a bad game. It was actually a really good game, but
Or can we just stop for a minute? This is 2020. Can we just stop and just drop the charades and say Age of Empires 3 was a bad game? Like, can we just finally...
It was a bad game.
Like, it was...
Okay.
Anything you guys have been playing?
I haven't been playing much of anything, personally. Turtle and I have been, like, obsessively developing Lineage for the Retroid Pocket 2.
Yes, very exciting.
I want to hear about this, man. Like, yes.
So there were just a lot of odd blocks, and Turtle knows all this stuff. He's the real developer. I'm the test monkey, that's pulling logs and throwing these things on three different Retroid Pocket 2s at this point, making doing all that stuff, which needs to be done. But Turtle's the wizard here. He's doing all that stuff. We just ran into nothing but roadblocks with Android 6, right?
Yeah.
I would do some deep Googling, like page 8 shit, right? And find a page that said Android 6 build for the MT6580, boom, broken link. And it would just, where we were getting error messages that we couldn't search, And so we took a day, and then the next day he goes, hey, load this up. This is a NuGet build. And I'm like, oh shit, we're going to 7.1. All right, let's fucking do this. Dude, because we had spent almost a week on 6.0. So we get to the home screen in about 6 hours.
Whoa.
Right? Doing this. And that's him compiling it. That's him uploading it, me downloading it, flashing it, and configuring it, right? Ever since then, we've just been screwing with it. We're working on a beta release for a small group of testers on the Retroid Handhelds Discord. And it's great. I put up some benchmarking stuff that I don't know if you guys saw, but its gaming performance obviously wasn't any better than the stock ROM, but the load times were outrageously faster, like 20 to 25% faster.
Yeah, I saw that. So the UI and the interface was just running and snappy, way snappier than
super fast
Android 6.
And also super duper shout out to Michael from the Retroid developers. That guy, as soon as he kind of detected we were serious, just anything he could do to help, he was just all about it. And so shout out to him, shout out to Retroid for their support of the open source community on this. They've been absolutely invaluable.
I'm really excited to see what happens. I mean, this is going to be like the RG350, where they have the main, developer build, and then they have like the Rogue firmware. And people be like, no, I'm a custom Thor OS all the way, bro. Like, no, Retroid or die.
I use the Turtle distro.
Yeah, the Turtle distro.
The good thing about the Android stuff is that we can take really cool advances from both, making this device good for everyone. I mean, certainly the software wasn't there when the thing first came out, but it's really great to see them doing it. Yeah,
that's the other fun part, though, is that this device is going to have an Android 6, 7.1.2, and 8.1 release. I am just burning to try their stock 8.1. Yeah. I mean, holy crap. Because Taki already said that it was snappy. All right.
I've got videos. It looks really good.
And I just want to say, for the uninformed, dear listener, if you have no idea what we're talking about right now, this is the Retroid Pocket 2 is the device we're talking about. For the people listening to the podcast who are joining, for the parents and the BRB gamer, the Retroid Pocket 2 is a big hobby of ours. So we have a server called Retroid Handhelds. It's the community focused on the Retroid Pocket 2.
And we'll have links in the description for you to come and join if you feel interested.
Like, comment, subscribe,
Well, that'll probably do us for the week of BRB Gamers. Thank you very much for joining us for the time that we've had here. Is there anything that either of you guys want to plug before we run away?
I did all my shout outs. I mean, shout out to Retroid and the Retroid Handhelds, and to you guys for helping this great community come together. I'm having a great time.
No worries.
Yeah, same here. This was a really engaging time, and I really can't wait to do it again. And next week, I think we got Retro on, and we'll have a rotating cast on this podcast.
Well, thanks again for listening. I'm Thor.
StubbornPixel.
Yeah, and I'm Choosh.
Catch you next time.